Good morning students, welcome to the next section of the flower, the pollination. Pollination plays a very important role in sexual reproduction of flower. During this process, the male gametes, that is your pollen grain, is transferred onto stigma where it germinates and carries the male nucleus to the female nucleus and where fertilization takes place, and that results in the formation of fruits and seeds which on germination give rise to new plant. So beginning with the definition of pollination, what is pollination? Pollination is the transfer of pollen grains from anther to stigma. In this figure you can see these are the flowers with anthers and stigma. Now during pollination what happens? The pollen grains produced in these anthers are transferred to the stigma. Now this process may take place between two flowers on the same plant or two flowers on two different plants of the same type. It may also involve a single flower. So based on the type of transfer, there are two types of pollination: self-pollination and cross-pollination. So let's begin with self-pollination. What is self-pollination? Self-pollination is a transfer of pollen grains from anther to stigma of same flower or of another flower of the same plant. Like in this picture you can see here the transfer of pollen grain is taking place in the same flower, whereas in this picture the transfer of pollen grain is taking place between two flowers but on the same plant. So based on this transfer, we have two types of self-pollination: autogamy and geitonogamy. Autogamy is the transfer of pollen grain to the stigma of the same flower, whereas geitonogamy is the transfer of pollen grains from one flower to another flower, but both the flowers are on the same plant. To carry out this self-pollination, the plants have adapted, plants, especially the flowers. The flowers have adapted themselves to ensure that only self-pollination takes place and no cross-pollination takes place. The first type of adaptation is known as homogamy. In homo means same and gamy means formation of gametes. So in this process what happens? The anthers and the stigma of a bisexual flower. Here in self-pollination all the flowers are bisexual. Self-pollination occurs only in bisexual flowers. So in such bisexual flowers the anthers and the stigma mature at the same time. When we'll study about cross-pollination, we will see anthers and stigma mature at different times also. So in self-pollination, to ensure self-pollination and homogamy, the anthers and stigma mature at the same time. Your example is wheat, rice, Mirabilis jalapa. Now this picture is of Mirabilis jalapa and this is your wheat flower. Another adaptation is cleistogamy. In this, you will observe that the flowers never bloom. They remain closed. So in those flowers which never open and remain closed, the pollen grains can pollinate the stigma of the same flower only. For example, underground flowers of Commelina bengalensis. Commelina bengalensis is a typical flower, or you can say it's a typical plant where it bears flowers underground as well as in the aerial shoot. The flowers in the aerial shoot bloom and may show self-pollination or cross-pollination, but in underground flowers, these are the nodes. The nodes that you see are the underground flowers. These flowers always remain closed and never open, and hence the pollen grains will fertilize its own stigma, thus ensuring self-pollination. Another example is your Pisum sativum, that is your peas, the green peas. This pea flower has a very typical shape. This part remains closed. This part will never open. Only the outermost. It has three types of petals. Pea flower has three types of petals in which the innermost petal will never open. They remain closed. So now here this is an exposed part where you can see the ovary, the ovules and the stigma. Now since they remain closed, so its own pollen grain will fertilize the stigma and hence only self-pollination can take place. Now coming to the advantages, what are the advantages? There are several advantages of self-pollination. The first being the chances of pollination is much greater. The second advantage of self-pollination is very small quantity of pollen grains are produced. Don't need to produce big amount of pollen grain. Hence, it is very economical for the plant. Economical in the sense it requires less energy in the production of pollen grain. Flowers need not be large and showy. Another advantage is there is no need to produce nectar and scent. And above all, the most important advantage is all the parental characters are reserved indefinitely. Means we will get the pure lines. If I have a plant which gives me high yield and are disease resistant, I can carry out self-pollination and get those characteristics in the coming offsprings. Thus, parental characters are reserved indefinitely. But as every coin has the other side also, self-pollination has many disadvantages as well. The first being no new varieties can be obtained. Whatever varieties or whatever offsprings we get, they are pure lines. Another disadvantage is the genetic defects of the breed cannot be removed. Since there are no intermixing of the characters of the chromosomes, as a result, what happens? The genetic defects pass on to the next generation without any alteration. And so there is little chance for the improvement, little or no chance for the improvement of the characters in the offspring. So these genetic defects cannot be removed with the help of self-pollination. Not only this, repeated self-pollination produce poor quality seeds. And since the seeds are of poor quality, the offspring produced will be very weak. This also results in the weakening of the breed generation after generation. The next type of pollination is cross-pollination. It is also known as allogamy. Now in this cross-pollination, what happens? The pollen grain from the anther of one flower is transferred to the stigma of a flower of another plant. But the plant should be of the same species. So transfer of pollen grains from anther of one flower to the stigma of another flower of another plant of the same species. And to carry out this cross-pollination, we need pollinators. Who are pollinators? They are the agents. Before going to the agents of pollination, let's see the adaptations for cross-pollination. Nature favors cross-pollination because it results in the production of a healthier offspring. So the first adaptation is unisexuality. Now what do we mean by unisexuality? We have already studied. Unisexuals are either male flowers or female flowers. Now these flowers may be born on the same plant, that is your monoecious plant. Example is your maize, cucumber, castor. In these plants what you will see, the male flower and the female flower both are born on the same plant. Or flowers may be born on different plants, that is the flowers may be dioecious. Examples are your palm, papaya, mulberry. Now in these plants what happened? one entire plant is a male plant and the another entire plant is a female plant. So there is no chance of self-pollination at all. Only cross-pollination is possible. The next adaptation is self-sterility. Just now we saw in homogamy, both anthers and stigma mature at the same time. So if they are maturing at the same time, self-pollination may also occur. In order to favor cross-pollination, though both mature at the same time, but will not germinate on the stigma of the same flower. Though the pollen grain falls on the stigma of the same flower, the pollen grains will not germinate. So this ensures self-sterility. But the same pollen grain when falls on the stigma of the flower born on another plant. Always remember, the pollen grains will germinate on the stigma of the flowers of the same species. Suppose the pollen grain of rose falls on the stigma of marigold, will never germinate. But the pollen grain of rose, that is your white rose, falls on the stigma of the pink rose, it will germinate because both the flowers belong to the same species. What differs is your only variety. They are the intermediate colors. So self-sterility again ensures cross-pollination. Examples are your ray florets of sunflower, orchids, apple, grapes, etc. Next adaptation is your hercogamy. Hercogamy means, herco means barrier. In this type, a kind of barrier develops in the flower itself such that the pollen grain of the flower will not fall on the stigma of the same flower. It will always fall on the stigma of another flower. So now in hercogamy what happens? Anthers and stigma are so placed in the flower that pollen grains from the anthers are unable to reach the stigma. The pollen grain of such flowers will never reach the stigma of the same flower. Your example is your Pansy gloriosa. Next is your heterostyle. Now in this what happens? The anther and the stigma grow at different length. If anthers are long, stigma will be very short. If stigma is at a greater height, the anthers will be very short. So in such a way, what happens? The pollen grain of the same flower will not again reach the stigma of the same flower. So in heterostyle what happens? The stigma and anthers grow at different heights which do not favor self-pollination. Example is your primrose and oxalis. Next adaptation is dichogamy. Di means two. Now in this, both the stamens and the carpels mature at different time. Based on which parts mature at what time, dichogamy is of two types. The first type is protandry. Pro means before, first, and andry means androecium. So if androecium or anthers mature earlier than stigma, then the condition is protandry. The example is pea, sunflower, salvia, etc. And if stigma matures earlier than your anther, then it is protogyny. Gyne means gynoecium. So in protogyny, stigma of a flower mature much earlier than anthers. Example, people, custard apple, etc. Now coming to the advantages of pollination. There are various advantages. So what are those? Let's see. The first advantage is it produces healthier offsprings. Seeds produced by them have much greater germinating capacity. We get high yield, abundant and more viable seeds. Not only this, different variations are introduced by cross-pollination. Naturally also variations are possible, and artificially also we can introduce variation by cross pollination. Just like self pollination, cross pollinations also have various disadvantages. The first being they have to depend on external agencies for pollination, which may or may not be available at the proper time. Suppose it is a time for pollination, it is a season, but no external agents are present, it's very difficult for cross pollination to take place. Then not only this, the pollen grains have to be produced in large quantities in order to ensure pollination. Thus, a lot of pollen is wasted. And due to this wastage of pollen grains, it is less economical. Less economical means the flowers have to be large, colored, showy, scented, and nectar producing. So these are some of the disadvantages of cross pollination. Now coming to agents of cross pollination. There are various agents of cross pollination. So let us study one by one. What are these agents? There are mainly two types of agents, biotic agents and abiotic agents. Biotic agents means living organisms helps in cross pollination, and abiotic means non-living things help in cross pollination. So let's study what are the biotic agents. The first is your pollination by insects. It is also known as entomophily. Then pollination by animals is known as zoophily. Then abiotic agents include wind, that is your pollination by wind. It is known as anemophily, and water, that is your hydrophily. So let's study each agents in detail one by one. Beginning with biotic agents, that is your insect pollinated flower, pollination by insects, also known as entomophily. Now what are the characteristics of these flowers? The flowers have to be large, showy, and brightly colored. They have to produce sufficient amount of scent and nectar in order to attract insects for pollination. Since it is insect pollination, the anthers are with short filaments. Anthers and stigma usually stay within the flower. The pollen grains that are produced are in small quantity. They are rough and sticky. Whereas stigma is also very sticky, so that it can receive the pollen grain present on the body of insects. It may be flat or knob-like. Knob-like means it will appear somewhat in this manner. This is your knob of the door. You might have seen when you open the door, there is a round knob. So this is the notch or knob-like stigma. So insect pollinated flowers will have somewhat stigma of this shape. Apart from these qualities, nectar guides are usually present in insect pollinated flower. Now what is nectar guide? Nectar guides are those instructions or those indications or those markings on the petals of the flower. Like in this flower you can see this bright red color. These are your nectar guides showing them the way where nectaries are present. Since it's an insect pollinated flower, so all the essential words, that is your androecium and gynoecium, remain within the flower, are not much exposed to wind. Examples are salvia, petunia, pea, buttercup, etc. Coming to another type of abiotic agent, that is your anemophily, means wind pollinated flowers that are pollinated by wind. Now since these flowers have to be pollinated by wind, the flowers need not be very large, showy and colored. So the flowers are very small, usually white in color, and dull in appearance. Neither they produce scent nor they produce nectar. But since it has to be pollinated by wind, anthers have long filaments. So here in this picture you can see all this white cloudy appearance that you see is the pollen grain. These are your pollen grains dispersed by these flowers. Here also this is your bottle brush. Red pointed structures that you see are the filaments, and at the tip of the filaments are the anthers present. Stigma is very large and feathery. Nectar guys are usually absent, and the essential whorls, both the anthers and stigma, both are exposed to air. Example, maize, pine, wheat, etc. Now coming to pollination by animals. Pollination by animals is known as zoophily. Animals means zoo means animals. Zoo means animals. So now there are different animals by which pollination takes place, and according to the animals we have different names. The first is your pollination by birds. If pollination occurs by birds, it is known as ornithophily. Example is your canna and begonia. If it is pollinated by bat, it is known as chiropterophily. Example is your kadam tree. Then pollination by snails. Pollination by snail is known as melecophily. Example, snake plant and lemma. And now coming to the characteristics of zoophily. Both male flowers and female flowers are born on separate plants, that is the flowers are dioecious and the flowers are very small and inconspicuous. Inconspicuous means they are not clearly visible, and the pollen grains are again produced in large quantity. Next type is your hydrophily. This is the last type of the agent where pollination takes place by water. Now in hydrophily you will see the flowers are very small and light for floating, as you can see in this picture. The flowers are floating. Male and female flowers are born on separate plants. Now this is your female flower and these are your male flowers. Now what happens? When the male flowers mature, they detach from the plant and float on water. While the female flowers, these are the female flowers, you can see they just touch the surface of water. Again, pollen grains are produced in large numbers because they have to float on water, so they produce large amount of pollen grains. Example is your Vallisneria hydrilla. With this we come to an end of pollination topic. In the next video we will study about how fertilization takes place and how fruits and seeds are formed. Thank you.